This week's guest is a seasoned communications professional. She set up her own company, Untapped Communications, 5 years ago, which specialises in helping non-profits and women-owned businesses succeed. She has her own podcast called The Mediocre Gardener, which I have listened to, and it's great. She's based in Pennsylvania in the US and is originally from Kildare. Edel Howlin, welcome to the Manon na hEireann podcast.
Thank you so much, Kira. It's so good to be here. Very, very excited.
Oh, the last time was the last time we actually met in person was when we worked together in Newstalk Radio in Dublin.
It kind of feels like a lifetime ago. 07, 08, right? When you were sort of setting off on new adventures and I was moving to the US. And it was like one of my fondest memories of working on that show. And you were an excellent producer.
Likewise, Adele.
Totally
You were great. This is Moncrief, wasn't it? Moncrief.
Yeah.
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 No, it was great. It was great.
Good
So it's
times.
lovely to have you on the podcast. We can
Great to be
reconnect. We
here.
have reconnected over LinkedIn and stuff and social media before, but this is obviously even better reconnection to do
is.
this podcast. So I'm going to just get into it. So the premise of the podcast is 3 defining moments, and I'd love to hear your first defining moment.
All right. Well, this is the one probably my parents are proudest of, Kira. When I failed my first year of college, they probably look back on it really fondly and say, we did a great job raising her. Because I'm the baby of the family. So they were like, what are we going to do with her? Like, how is this going to work out? Like, we thought we had her set on the path and she didn't quite make it. But yeah, I had this idea that I was going to do science when I started college, because that was one of the things that I really enjoyed. I had a great teacher in school, but I also had a great English teacher. I did geology and I did physics and I did maths and computer science. And when you find that I'm a communications person, you wonder why. Why would you pick those subjects? Why would you do that? That might explain why I failed, perhaps. So, but I think, if I think back on what that felt like, I think we all have to have like a kick up the bum at some point in our lives, right? And to learn what failing feels like, and as hard as it is, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I think it just sort of turned me around a little bit. Like it definitely made me the person I am today, where I'm like, well, I don't want to fail again because that didn't feel good. And I didn't try my hardest. So now I know why I failed.
Yeah.
But yeah, so definitely was sort of that moment that I would draw on afterwards, and sort of that fear of not succeeding, and it stopped me from, I think, kind of phoning it in a little bit. Like I think up until then I just been phoning it in, and I was like, I won't try too hard. And now I'm like, well, if I try really hard, like what can I achieve? So that was sort of what set me on the path after that.
And what did you do? So you obviously didn't do that anymore.
Yeah.
What did you go do another course, or what did you end up doing?
No. So my dad sat me down actually, and my brother was there to like support me on the other side and say like, I've got your corner or whatever. And he was like, well, what do you want to do? And it's so funny, Kira, you're going to love this. My dad said, I said, look, I really liked English. And he's like, would you like, and then maybe do you want to do journalism? I was like, oh yeah, that'd actually be really interesting. And he's like, yeah, but journalists are like really hard nosed, people, and takes a certain type of person. And so the fact that I ended up working in journalism is like the maddest thing. But we just sort of decided, it was like, cause I didn't know what I wanted to do. I think that was the big problem. Like I knew I always loved radio, but I didn't know that could be a career. So I just sort of ruled it out. It was like, I need to choose one of the paths that are like in the world and that I see other people doing. So I just thought, let me finish my degree and see what happens. So what I did, instead of had to do computer science, I think like the second year, and I did stats and I dropped everything else, and so I just did like sort of mathsy stuff. And then I realized I love stats. Totally fell in love with statistics. It was like, this is the most fascinating subject. It's so practical. I know lots of people hate it. And then I got my degree in stats, and so that was me, kind of 4 years in college, and was like, oh, well, five.
You don't talk about that.
We don't. We don't. It's fine. It's fine. It was definitely a defining moment, but let's not look at it too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of it. We sort of left UCD with a statistics degree and went off to start work. So stuck with it, I think, is the answer.
Exactly, exactly. And then your second defining moment.
So my second defining moment was when I decided to move to America. When I left college, and I started working, I was like, I had itchy feet. I was like, I want to leave Ireland and I just sort of want to explore. And I was planning to move to London with a good friend of mine. She ended up moving actually, but I met someone. And I met someone through work, and I was like, well, let me just stick around and see how this goes. And it went really well. And 2 years later, we were getting married and moving to America. Because both of those things were happening at the same time. And Kira, I hadn't brought anyone home. Like, this was my first big relationship. Like, I hadn't dated anyone like longer than 3 months. So here we go. Here's this guy. He's 10 years older than me. He's moving to.
You never told me that, Adele. You left that one
Kept
out.
that one. I did. That's the surprise.
Yeah.
And depending on how people feel about it, right? He's English, so like that's another part of it too. It's like, hi parents, here is my new partner who's English, 10 years older than me. We're getting married and we're moving to America. And I had always wanted to go. My sister had always lived in the United States, sort of as long as I could kind of remember from my teenage years. And I'd come and I'd visited and I'd wanted to move, but it felt really hard. So when this opportunity came up for his work, it was like, well, why don't we go and give it a try? So we moved to Houston, and I think sort of the most interesting part about it was that when you get there, like, you can kind of reinvent yourself when you move somewhere, right? Like, you don't have to be the same person. Nobody knows who you are. I mean, you obviously bring yourself everywhere you go. So good luck pretending that you can be someone that different. But it really did give a nice opportunity to just sort of figure out like who I wanted to be when, yes, I'm Irish. Yes, I'm in America. But what does this next chapter mean? Really, really shaped me and really opened my eyes to like a much bigger world, and all the opportunities, I think, as well, that happened and came about because I lived in such a huge country compared to Ireland, with its population of 7 million. So yeah, it felt like a life-changing moment that was only maybe going to last a year, but sort of 10 years in Houston and 8 years in Pennsylvania. It's like I'm nearly living in the United States as long as I lived in Ireland, which feels crazy. So
Yeah, wow, long time, long time. And then your third defining moment.
um so this is probably my favorite and most recent memory. Was so we moved, a lot of them are around moving or clearly failing. We moved from Houston to Pennsylvania. So part of like my husband's work, he works in clinical trials and pharmaceuticals, and so there were only certain places that we could travel to, or like that would have made sense for us to move to. And he had this idea, he was like, why don't we move to Pennsylvania? So just outside Philadelphia was sort of the plan. And we I was both nervous and excited about this move. Like, I think when we moved to America in the first place, it was like, this is great. This is going to be a great opportunity. Like, I was a little bit nervous, but mostly excited. And this one was like, I had spent 10 years building a career in Houston and kind of setting up my life to start all over again, um, was way harder than I thought it was, like 10 years later. And when we moved here, was like kind of, I guess I was like 37, 38. And so it coincided with a really nice midlife crisis, the thing that we all look forward to. So yeah, so like we kind of moved, and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do because I had worked in public radio, um, which sort of similar to BBC and RTE. When I was in Houston, I was like, I thought I'd just stay in that, and that didn't quite work out. So I was like, what am I going to do? Who am I? And you're familiar with this, Kira, right? Like when you work in media, like it can be all consuming. And so I went from all this work to suddenly 3 months where I wasn't working, and I was like, what is going on? And you sort of question everything. You're like, I'm so defined by my work. Who am I? What do I want now at this stage in life? So yeah, it was a really nice midlife crisis. Um, only good things happen in midlife
Yeah.
crisis.
Yeah.
Um, but kind of came out the other side, and was sort of needed to happen, and kind of like sharpened, and helped me think about like what comes next, and help me build my business.
Yeah, I was going to say that out of that, you did set up your own company, which is amazing, because I do think that women, well, I can't speak for all women, but like it's, it's kind of ballsy to do it. Like it's ballsy to set up your own company, you know?
Do you know? Yeah, it's so funny you say that, because I think back, like I would never have thought I could be the kind of person who would set up my own company. Like never even occurred to me. I'm like, and I'm not an entrepreneur, but like that's kind of what you get defined as, right? Like when you build something like that, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. But it was just at a time where I started looking at other jobs, and I was like, I just don't think, like, you can always learn something, but I was like, I just don't think I'm gonna learn anything new in a new job. And I just thought, I know enough now that I can probably be useful to people who don't need a full-time communications person. And so that was like, it was more a case of I can't do anything else right now. Um, and so that's kind of what led me to it.
Yeah, and just when you said about you know, your job and your identity, like us millennials, like we
Hmm.
it's really common like for us to define ourselves by our jobs because that's just kind of the way we were brought up and kind of, what society told us and Gen Zs don't have that now issue.
No, they don't.
I
It's
won't say
funny
any
that,
more
isn't
about
it?
that. Are they your three defining moments now? Have we gone through them?
They, we have, yeah, poof,
Yeah.
just like that.
Nice and snappy. I've got lots more questions for you, Adele. No, that's brilliant. Thank you so much for being so honest as well with all of that. Just then, obviously the title of this podcast is Manon Heron, and what comes to mind when you think of Manon Heron, and how do you feel being a Manon Heron?
Yeah, I think it's such an interesting question. And I love that that's the title of your podcast, because it means so many different things, right? And you can kind of, like, what does it mean to be an Irish woman? And I, I think, it's something I ran away from when I kind of moved to America. I was like, yeah, I'm Irish, but like, I'm kind of seeking this new world and this new life. And I think I was smacked across the head with the fact that I'm an Irish woman when I went back to Ireland to visit my parents, not long after the pandemic. And of course, we were prevented, right, from seeing each other. We couldn't travel. And I went home by myself. And it was such a reminder of like, oh, this is a place where I belong. Like I remember going into Dublin to meet friends, and I was walking around, and it was so familiar, and it was so lovely to have that moment to feel at home in another country, and to really be sort of like a tourist, but also a local. And so it, I think I feel more like a Manana Heron now. Um, but I think I think you were sort of, when you think about what we have gone through as women, right? Like, it's funny that you kind of talk about that millennial idea, and how we've really, as women, we've thrown ourselves into work, right? Because we have these opportunities. There's so many jobs that we can work in, but of course we have everything else as well that we have to do. It's not like you get let off the hook. And so I think Irish women in particular, because of the way the country had been for a very, very long time. I think we're a very resilient group and a very adaptable group. And I think we try and forge our own way um, a lot. And I think, something I probably wouldn't have said when I was like getting on an airplane to go to Houston nearly 20 years ago. I'm so proud to be an Irish woman now, right? Like I feel so proud that that is part of who I am, and I can't pretend that it's not, and it's not an important part. It's the piece of me that doesn't fit in America. It's the piece of me that fits in at home. So I think, yeah, I think we've Manana here, and I think have overcome a lot. And I think the fact that we are not just surviving but thriving is a testament to our resilience for sure, for sure.
Yeah, you put it so brilliantly. Really, you really have. Who are then the Irish women that you look up to?
How long have we got, Kira? Not that long, you don't.
That look.
I mean, yeah, the list is long, right? Because there's so many amazing women. I mean, even sort of watching you forge your path as you left Ireland and went off to kind of build your career. Like, I think there's just so many examples of women doing amazing things and sort of, kind of breaking boundaries as well. But I have to start with my sister because she applied for a Morrison visa when she was younger to come and live in America. So that gave her like a green card to work in the United States, but you had to keep it alive. So she would come every summer when after college would wrap up, and she would work, do odd jobs. She worked as an au pair with families, kind of as you do, right? And as a lot of Irish women did a long time ago, they would come and look after families. And then at one point, she worked for a production company, and actually, she got to work with the Coors, which is super cool. She lives in Chicago, and they were shooting a video. So it's so funny. Like you go away from home, but there's always a pull back to that. But if she had not come to America, which she eventually moved after college and lived kind of in Chicago and then moved out to the suburbs, she's absolutely been in America longer than she lived in Ireland. I don't think I could ever have considered it. It would have felt too big, too scary. And she's got such a can-do spirit, and she's not scared to try things, and she's done such amazing things in her career, in her life. And so like I'm so proud of my big sister, of like who she is and what she's done. And she's just is such a great example of what's possible when you kind of push yourself out of your comfort zone and explore a whole new world.
Yeah, I remember when we were working together in Newstalk and you were heading off to the US, and I literally like was like, wow. It, I I didn't have it in me to do it at that time, like I just didn't. And I just thought that's really amazing that you can do that, and I'm so glad it worked out for you.
Me
But
too.
yeah,
Thank God.
um it just shows that when you have siblings or a friend or somebody that that you're close to, and that you can, what is it, when you see somebody doing something, you can feel that you can do it as well.
Yeah, and I think a big part of it too, Kira, was she was always because I was in Houston, we're in the same time zone, even though we're like thousands of miles apart. So I could call her, whenever I was having a tough day, or just it was so nice to be able to talk to someone in the same time zone because I couldn't always catch my friends. And she was such a great support. Like when I was starting out and when we moved and, when we had our daughter and everything, like she would try and come and make sure she was part of all of the important events. Because we didn't have any other family here. Like she was kind of it. So yeah, I'm so, so lucky that even though we don't live close, we're very close, and that she's somewhere, somewhere in the realm of the entire continent of the United States.
She's not the same land mass as you.
Exactly, exactly. We'll take it.
And was there any other Irish women that you wanted to mention?
Yes, there was. So when it's funny, like I think again, it's probably partly because I'm away from home. I'm becoming one of those Irish people now who's all like modeling and like, oh look at lovely Ireland. It's so great. Always great to go back and have a holiday there. One person as I've been building my business that I really, really admire is Pippa O'Connor Ormond. And I've followed her on social media for really probably like about the last kind of 5, 6 years. I can't even remember what it was that she was doing that I suddenly thought I'm gonna, follow her on Instagram. But she is such an awesome like businesswoman, and she's just worked so hard and has worked so hard, I think, to overcome a lot of stereotypes about her, right? Like she's just a model or she's just this or whatever. She, built her own clothing brand, and out of that, she's now built her own makeup brand, and she's in Brown Thomas, she's at the airport, and um it doesn't mean everything she touches like turns to gold, but she always learns, and she posts a lot of like supportive things on her Instagram account. And so the days where I just felt like, it was a bad day for me or things weren't kind of working out, um, I could always sort of draw strength from like something she was doing or the next thing she was trying, because it's not success for success sake. She actually wants to bring people along. And she's always so excited when other people are saying, oh, I'm starting my own thing, or I have this business idea. And she's genuinely enthusiastic for them. And like, that's what it is. And I think that's one of my favorite things about women in general is that, you know, usually we don't try to tear each other down. We try to build each other up and support each other on whatever it is that we're doing. And it can be really, really lovely. And it's sort of that all boats rise with the tide, right? If we all work together to support each other, um, what can we achieve? And she's just such a great example of that. And I've learned a lot, from maybe stalking is probably better, it feels like, 'cause I don't know her, but stalking her Instagram. I guess she puts it
Yeah,
out there, so it's fine.
yeah. Oh, come here, we're all stalking on Instagram. Um, I think that's a lovely, lovely example because people have different thoughts on people on social media, whether they're influencers or not.
Hmm.
And I just think that, if Pippa listens to the podcast, I'm sure she will.
Uh-huh.
Um,
She will
how
know.
nice, yeah, she will know, but how nice it is that, you were living in Pennsylvania, you're in the States a long time, and you've your own business and you have mentioned her. And I just think that's really lovely. So we'll move on to the next question. What's the best advice you've ever been given from an Irish woman? Ban na hÉireann, Manon hÉireann.
So this was actually a hard question, Kira, when you sent it, because I was like, I think a big part of it is a lot of my formative years, right? Um, feel like they were spent in the United States, so there's not that many band herons or Manana herons around me. Um, but I think my mother, who I would be remiss, of course, to mention, especially after mentioning my sister, she'd probably, tear me a new one, if I didn't mention her. But when I was younger, I remember I had tremendous like fear of missing out on things. Like I wanted to be everywhere, and I think it was probably the youngest sibling in me and the youngest in the family. Like no one would tell me anything, or they wouldn't include me in anything because I was just this annoying younger sister. And so I was always really, really curious as to like what was going on and what's happening. And I'm sure it plays into my personality as an adult. But she would always say to me, if you're not there, you're not missing anything, which at the time was really, really annoying because I was like, well, I know I'm not there and I'm missing everything. So I don't know why you're telling me this. It seems really unfair that you're like compounding the fact that I'm not there and I'm missing everything. Um, but she, I think back on that now, and I think, you know, oh, as an adult, like she was actually right. I always hate to say that. It's like my mother was right. But like, if you're not at a thing, then you're not there. You're not there to experience it. It's not the end of the world. And I think more so as an adult now, um, I have this sort of feeling that I'm not, if I'm choosing to like sit at home with a good book and there's an event going on and I'm not there, it's fine. I don't have to, like and I don't know if you're at that stage too, Kier, where you're like, it's fine. I don't have to go to everything.
Yeah, absolutely. There was drinks on for Patrick's Day actually, here, and but I wasn't able to get there until 9 o'clock if I was to go, and at 8:30 I was fit for bed. So I didn't go.
It's not worth it. I will say, back at Christmas time, there's this Irish American magazine, and they were having an awards event in New York, and it was one of those like, should I go, shouldn't I go? And anyway, I ended up going. And there was another couple from Pennsylvania who were being honored, and they moved to here. They moved from Dublin, and brought their business and ended up selling it. Like, and they're sort of like just business people. And we ended up going for a drink after the event. And then it became, at one point we were at the Waldorf Astoria. I don't know how that happened, but we were getting a taxi to meet a friend of theirs there. And then we couldn't get into the bar. And anyway, we're moving around. We ended up in Chelsea at 4:30 in the morning in New York. We were in a bar, and another Irish guy who normally sings at the bar happened to show up for a last drink, and we were singing Fairy Tale of New York. And it was just the best moment. And it was one of those, like, I could have not gone. And look at what happened. But it was just like all the stars aligned. I had a terrible hangover the next day, but it was 100% worth it. I didn't really sleep in my hotel room. But anyway, it was one of those, like,
I
sometimes
love.
you never know.
Well, exactly. That sounds amazing. Like that's
It
like what
was.
dreams are made for. It doesn't like
Yes.
it sounds absolutely class. Um, so your mom is kind of right.
She was kind of right, mostly right. Let's say 99% of the time, right?
Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
give her that.
What's your mom's name?
Monica.
Monica. Hi, Monica.
Yeah.
Great advice. So then just your favorite Irish word or saying, and it can be Irish, it can be in Irish or English.
So I would say my my favorite phrase is Níl aon tintáin mór de hintáin féin, which is there's no fireplace or hearth like your own hearth. And probably for me, interesting, when I moved to Philadelphia, I worked for a nonprofit with an Irish nun who's good friends with John Bon Jovi, as you do. And their saying is, none of us are home until all of us are home. And I think, you know, moving to Philly, which is a very, very Irish city, from Houston, which is a very international city. People are from Scotland, they're from a lot of the Americas. It's a real mix because of oil and gas and all of the med centers, whereas Philly feels very Irish. So coming here and kind of connecting with Sister Mary, this nonprofit who help people experiencing homelessness, and her saying, it was like it totally reminded me of the Irish saying that, like, this idea of, there really is no place like home. And I think because it's such a strong Irish community here, it made me reconnect with Ireland in a way that I hadn't when I lived in Houston. And I think it took on a whole new meaning, because now I'm stuck between two places, right? Like, Ireland's not really home and America's not really home, but both of those are home. And I find now when I go back to Ireland, it's so lovely to be there, and it feels familiar. And I would love, ideally, I'd love to spend like 3 months out of the year living in Ireland and 9 months out of the year living in the US if, I win the lottery. But I I can't wait to get home. I have pictures of the beach where we stay in Kerry, Inch Beach, on my phone and look at them every day. I follow like the bed and breakfast when they post pictures of the beach. A lot of Instagram stories here. I love it. But we usually go and meet with like my husband's family. and all of the cousins, and it's like, and friends of ours, and it's a lovely get together. Um, and then on top of that, we like I start to crave and miss my community here in Glenside, which is just outside Philly, because it's a really, really Irish community. They just had a St. Patrick's Day parade this past Saturday, and like 10,000 people showed up, which is unbelievable. Um, so it's one of those things where like my yeah, home is not so much about a place necessarily anymore. It's about the people and who's around you and kind of like the community that you've built. And we've been so lucky to be welcomed into the community here. Even though we're total blow-ins and we did not grow up here. And it's so nice to be able to go home and kind of slot into life there. So I think um, it's a phrase probably that people just quote and don't really often think too deeply about it, but it means a lot more now than I think it kind of used to.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, thank you for all of that. Now it's a bit of a quick fire at the end. Exciting. Finish up. Okay, so Tato crisps or King crisps?
Yeah, I'm not going to pick either of those. I'm going to go for Kyo's or O'Donnell's because they're my favorites. Sorry, Tate and King. Yeah, I hope you never
Oh,
get sponsored by
wow.
Kia because I think I've just ruined your chances now.
Q's and what were the other ones?
O'Donnell's.
Oh, Donald's. Okay, but if you had to pick between the two of them,
I've done a taste test and it's really hard. Probably maybe O'Donnell's like edges out just a little bit. Um, but yeah, it's a tough one.
okay, controversial. Good,
Mm.
good,
Thanks.
different. And then in terms of tea, Lines or Barry's?
Barry's. Yeah, I don't think lines has ever darkened the doorstep of our house. I used to live with someone in Dublin, like when I was renting, actually when I was working at Newstalk, and they would have lines all the time, and I'm like, what is this? It's not even real tea. It's like Barry's all the way.
How many cups of tea do you drink a day?
Ooh, that's a great question. On an average day, I would say about four. That's like a weekday. And I'd say on a weekend, probably six or seven.
You're more relaxed on the weekend.
There's more access to tea. There's like a whole pot that's made. Whereas like during the day, I have to go down, have to make myself a cup, a cup at a time. But on the weekend, there's always a pot like kind of going for all of us. Mostly me and my daughter. I've converted her, and she's a tea drinker now. And I remember actually when she came, I think she was in like fifth class or sixth class or something in primary school, and she came home and she was learning about wants and needs. And I said, well, a need is obviously tea. And she's like, what are you talking about? That's a want. And I was like, it's a need. I don't know where you're getting this from. And now she understands it.
She's so.
But probably because I've harmed her, Kira, right? Like forcing
I
my
know.
tea ways.
Oh, totally. I literally love tea and it comforts me.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
it's not just a thirsty thing, it's like a
Nope.
comfort.
Yeah. It's the
So I
warmth.
get it. So I get it. Edel Howlin, it's been fab chatting to you.
You too. Thank you so much for asking. I was delighted when you asked, and it was an honor chatting here with you. So thank you.
Oh, oh no,
Appreciate it.
honestly, you were brilliant. It was so good. So thank you so much. Garv Mila Mahagot.